In 1799, Danish chemist Peter Abildgaard formally identified cryolite, a white, rare mineral from Greenland dubbed as the ice that never melts. Later used in the production of aluminum, a cryolite mine was set up on the territory in the 1850s. That's when a lot started to change for the island. Fast forward to 2026, and interest in Greenland's minerals has intensified.
We need Greenland. We need Greenland for national protection. We need Greenland for national security. But now what I'm asking for is a piece of ice.
Greenland is currently a self-governed territory within the Kingdom of Denmark, and it's landed in the midst of a geopolitical battle.
We are open for business, but we are not for sale.
We have to work together respectfully.
No doubt, in Greenland, if you want to exploit, you of course have to respect our legislation.
This is an Arctic island that's strategically positioned. It's situated in an area that is close to emerging shipping routes, and of course it's revered for its untapped mineral potential.
There are a couple of very large rare earth projects that Donald Trump is almost certainly interested in. I think the US is going to be in charge of mineral rights or highly influential in this area.
The rare earth market, mineral market, is a very small market. It's about $10 billion. It is, however, servicing probably $7 trillion market.
So why won't critical minerals make Greenland rich? And what can? Greenland's economy has long been reliant on two major sectors: fishing, which accounts for almost all of the island's exports, and public administration and services, which cover health and education. You'll notice that mining is the smallest segment on the chart. However, Greenland's biggest sector is incredibly reliant on subsidies from Denmark. In 2024, Greenland received about 553 million euros from Copenhagen, representing about half of the territory's expenditures and around 20% of its GDP. But that's not enough to support the entire economy. In 2026, the National Bank of Denmark expects a slowdown in Greenland's growth, citing major challenges in its public finances.
When you look at Greenland's economy today, the first thing to say is that it's very small. Its nominal gross domestic product is somewhere in the region of $3.3 billion US. It's also been growing at about 1% in recent years, which is after some years of progress, and it's slowing to that level.
When you come to Greenland, the kitchen table discussions is how to combat inflation, the cost of living, our healthcare system, all of the issues that I think other countries also have top of mind.
Greenland has been exploring ways to become financially independent from Denmark for a while, and one industry could enable that.
This is an island with the world's 8th largest reserves of rare earth elements. There are also significant deposits of things like gold, cobalt, and lithium, and the list goes on from there. Some of the mining companies described it as a mineral gold rush, though analysts spoken to a bit more skeptical than that.
A study by the American Action Forum estimates that the value of Greenland's known and realistically extractable mineral resources could reach $186 billion. In an optimistic scenario, mines could bring wealth to Greenland, like oil did for Norway through the creation of a sovereign wealth fund. This could also ripple through the local economy by increasing consumer demand and in turn more jobs.
Every time there's some activity in the mineral sector, they will charter the local boat, the local shop, and so on. So right now, the local communities are really feeling the positive effect of that. It will take some time before we feel it on a more national level.
We've got more exploration than exploitation. And in the exploration phase, there's a lot of money to be made for local companies because the exploration companies are very small, very few people, very few resources, but they're usually well funded and they buy all the services they need locally. We don't mind if you find anything as long as you keep looking, because that's where the money is for us right now.
Since 1998, the Greenlandic government has been delivering licenses to mining firms for the prospecting, exploration and exploitation of mineral resources, and it's been busy. Greenland's trove of minerals extends well beyond cryolite and includes gold, gemstones and industrial rocks. And with 36.1 million tons of rare earth elements, the territory boasts some of the world's biggest reserves. It's also home to two of the world's largest deposits, a natural accumulation of minerals in the Earth's crust. Between 2003 and 2026, the Greenlandic government granted 138 licenses, mainly to British, Canadian and Australian firms. But only 2 mines are actively operating: Nalunak Gold Mine and White Mountain Anorthosite Mine. The largest license holder, Amarok, has been present on the island since 2017 and is exploring and exploiting gold, copper, germanium and gallium amongst others.
It was all the way back to 2012. I noticed how much interest it was in Greenland, especially from China. The question was like, how are you going to do it? Is it feasible to do it? And I thought with the kind of Icelandic know-how and Icelandic background, if you could marry up assets, operation and capital, then it could be done. We started with a gold mine, one of the highest grade gold mines in the world, which means it should yield high and good free cash flow. It is, in our view, easiest to start with gold, because gold is easily movable. The intention was to utilize the cash flow from those operations to find large deposits that are sitting on the surface there.
New critical mineral discoveries and growing geopolitical demand have sparked renewed interest for investments in mining companies.
The investment picture for Greenland's mining is still one that is developing. It's still very early stages. The EU is looking to form a strategic partnership with Greenland to look at improving its raw material supply chains. And one notable investment that stands out is for a company called Critical Metals. They have a project called Tambreez, which is a rare earths mine.
In October 2025, Critical Metals received a letter of interest from the US Export-Import Bank for a loan worth up to $120 million to develop Tambreez. And while no rare earths are being mined in Greenland yet, large investments in the sector are being eyed by the wealthiest. Since 2019, Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates and Michael Bloomberg all invested in Cobalt Metals, a mineral exploration company that uses AI and machine learning. Altman joined them as an investor in 2022. However, in 2025, Cobalt ceased its exploration work on the island and returned its stake in the project to its partner, 80 Mile. The company, formerly known as Blue Jay Mining, is being advised by broker and analyst firm SP Angel.
Well, the recent dramatic rise in gold prices, silver prices, copper, tin, and a whole range of other commodities is definitely bringing new investors back into the mining sector. And Greenland is a very interesting place to look for new minerals.
If you want to invest in Greenlandic minerals or energy potentials, it is very capital intensive. And in order for that to succeed, investors need stability. You need to engage in the first part of the value chain. We only got the minerals, we don't have the down the line production.
There are no roads going across Greenland. You either have to get somewhere by plane, by helicopter, by boat. You have to build everything from scratch. You've got to do your own water, got to create your own power, you need your own communications. So your project has to be really worth it.
You need to do everything on your own. We started with a project that has costed us in total about $200 million from the start to finish. Now, I want to say 2/3 of that cost was the processing plant, to build the house, put the plant in, and about 50 to 60% of that cost was people. 1/3 was to set up the roads, the bridges, the harbor, and get the mining going and so on.
It is a chicken and egg situation. The mines can't get going until the processing is there, and the processors won't put the money in until the mines are going. So this is where government needs to step in and help with the chain.
If investment and infrastructure already make Greenland a risky bet for mining, then additional constraints, such as insurance challenges and the impacts of climate change, could really slow things down.
Our society is struck by climate changes, by changes in the infrastructure. We have power outings, we have the distribution and the supplies being cut off once in a while, and the companies need to deal with that.
Scientists are deeply alarmed with the scale and pace of the thawing of Greenland's ice sheet. These environmental considerations are critically important to Greenland's economy. You only have to look at fishing, which is just undeniably essential to Greenland's economic success. But it is also true that climate change inadvertently is creating conditions in which it might actually be easier to access some of these raw materials. But building kind of floating docks rather than investing in infrastructure for a port, for example, is something that is happening more.
It's not that easy to find rare earths, and then finding those rare earths where there's a reasonable grade and where the metallurgy means you can easily extract the rare earths is even more difficult. So what you really want to do is produce a concentrate of some sort and ship that probably to a place where they can more easily extract the rare earths. But it's all about economics. The Chinese are processing rare earths very cost effectively, really quite cheaply, and the Chinese haven't been that bothered about putting acid into their environment. And they'll have to clean that up one of these days. Greenland can't afford that. They need to get it right first time.
There has been local opposition to these projects in Greenland in the past, and we can see that by example of the banning of high-level uranium mining on the territory.
In 2021, the Gvenfjell site, which holds both critical minerals and uranium, was shut down following the arrival of a new government, which banned the extraction of the chemical element. The mining company Energy Transition Minerals, which had planned to extract the highly toxic and radioactive metal, is now suing Greenland's government for compensation of up to $11.5 billion on the grounds of expropriation, the government's seizure of property.
It's a huge deposit. It's got great rare earth grades, quite a lot of uranium and thorium in it. And the Greenlanders really don't want any radionuclides. They really don't want any risk of poisoning the fish stocks or the land around in that area.
Another issue faced by investors and mining companies is finding skilled workers. As investment increases, so does the necessity for a trained labor force.
Currently, we have about 40 or 50% of our employees are Greenlandic. When you will have a lot of mines in Greenland, that will get smaller and smaller because there's only 50,000 people and only a portion of that can work. You then need to find people that are willing to work on maybe 4 weeks on shift or 4 weeks off. And we have developed a plan to do that, mostly through people from places like Poland, Serbia, Kazakhstan.
We are still very much dependent on a foreign workforce, and about 12 to 13% of the workforce here are foreigners. It's a sign of an economy in growth.
When you're a small economy and a small workforce, you have to import a lot of workforce from the outside to develop these sectors. So we're not interested in opening 10 mines. It would mean that we would be outnumbered in our own country, and we cannot accommodate that.
While it's still quite a nascent industry, there are other projects in development, and yet there does seem to be a cap on that ambition as well.
The shortage of skilled workers directly stems from a declining and aging population. In early 2026, Greenland's population stood at just over 55,500 inhabitants. But government data projections show a steep decline over the next 20 years, with the territory expected to lose around 20% of its people by 2050. High mortality and immigration are contributing factors. And like in many parts of the world, Greenland is experiencing falling birth rates. And the territory is also known for having the highest levels of abortion in the world due to socio-economic conditions.
It's a vast Arctic island. That trend of bringing in foreign workers is only likely to continue from here.
While the Greenlandic government operates a corporate tax of 25% on foreign companies, and mining licenses include a 5% royalty on uranium and rare earth elements, profits are still split between Denmark and Greenland. And if mining profits exceed 75 million Danish kroner per year, Denmark will reduce its grant by 50% of the excess. So, what could help Greenland make its population rich? While waiting for the ice to melt and future mining projects to take shape, Greenland has turned to other sources of income, such as tourism and the potential of exporting its fresh water, which could be used as drinking water for food production or in industrial settings.
Tourism is a big focus for Greenland for diversifying its economy. It harbours ambitions of 40% of its export value coming from the tourism sector by 2035.
We're trying to sell, first of all, surplus energy produced in Greenland, either for exports or for projects like data centers, because a data center basically just requires a good connectivity, lots of land, a building, and a cooling mechanism. And definitely here the cooling mechanism is we open the door.
Greenland's mineral potential is enormous. But so are the barriers to turning these projects into a success. Overcoming those barriers is going to take a lot of private and probably state capital. The question for Greenlanders, I'm sure, is whether it becoming a success story and it developing these riches will actually get seen by its population.